Welcome to Canada's Entrepreneur, where we talk to the entrepreneurs who are making it happen across Canada and deliver the news, trends, knowledge, and opinions from entrepreneurs and business influencers across the country. Hi, everyone. I'm Phil Bliss, founder and CEO of Canada's Entrepreneur, coming to you from Toronto today. Today, we're going to meet Dan Swayze, who's a seasoned executive leader with over 20 years of experience driving growth, innovation, and transformation in high-tech companies. He's renowned for executing technical strategies that enable cloud migration, automation, and data-driven decision-making. He's very adept at aligning business and technology goals to deliver scalable, secure, and high-performing solutions. As a strategic thinker with a collaborative approach, he has led award-winning engineering teams. He's very passionate about mentoring talent and fostering a culture of innovation. He thrives at the intersection of technology and strategy and drives measurable results and sustained business success. So, welcome to Canada's Entrepreneur, Dan. So, Dan, great to see you. Why don't we start by you telling us a little bit more about your entrepreneurial experiences, let's say over the last decade, anyway, and why you came into, why you became an entrepreneur. That's always an important first thing, anyway.
That's a great question, Philip. Thanks for asking. I guess to understand that I personally was born with the entrepreneurial spirit. And so at an early age, I actually, as a teenager, I started my first company. And so from that, I learned a lot of pitfalls. I learned about um, how to do some business, how to go to market, and things like contracting. But really uh, didn't understand like the corporate side of things. So it was just an early education. But the sense was I want to work and do something I love, right? And that was kind of what drove me. Moving forward, obviously into adult life, I ended up working in corporations to see how that went because I was able to sell the business that I had, made a little bit of money, and then I knew that I didn't have the education, so I had to figure out what was next. I got involved with another entrepreneur who was older than me, so they were more established in the business world to learn about uh, what it took to be able to do that side of things. So that was my first experience in the corporate world. And he taught me a lot. It was actually a wonderful mentor. And from there, he kind of gave me some guidance into where to go with my journey. So moving forward, that's when I started to get my education, like a little bit more formal. And then had another role in corporate to get a little bit more experience. And then had another great mentor. But then I had these ideas. Like, how do I take these ideas and run with them, to do something with them? And so, as a technical person, because my journey, my skill set was highly technical at the time, and so I was like, how do I leverage this into something? Which is a story that I hear a lot these days from entrepreneurs.
Mhm.
There's technical people who really say, I've got this great idea. I want to build this product and I just want to take it to market. Well, I made all the mistakes that they made, which was like, don't even understand this sense of what does a go-to-market strategy look like? How do I figure out what I need to bring to the market to align what I'm doing with market to know that there's actually a need? Things like that. So also, is this patentable? Because I had some interesting patentable ideas. So in the early 2000s, I actually had launched a company right around the time of COVID, or not COVID, the 9/11, back at
9/11.
9/11.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. And so I had been working with a company who had lost funding because of that tragedy. There was some folks who were
I
greatly
remember that
affected.
very well.
Yeah. So for me, it was a kind of an opportunity to say, okay, what am I doing now? I had been working on some side things and was in creation of like a CMS, content management system.
Hmm.
And that was novel at the time because they had this idea that
Hmm.
people were needed to edit their websites. Um, and then I got in touch with another entrepreneur who had another vision related to email marketing, how the future was going to be email marketing. We were put together by a person who was president of the local ISP. And so it was all right, like budding technologies at the time. Everything was super exciting back then because we know about the dot
Yeah.
com boom and everything, right? And so that was my first experience from a to actually have a corporation that was actually bringing real product solution to the world. And business partner was handling more of the business end of things, and I handled the rest of like operations.
Hmm.
And we actually grew that successfully. And I had my exit later on, and decided I wanted to do consulting. And so that would have been around about 2011, 2012. And that's when I
Hmm.
decided, let's do some consulting. So at that point, I was still along the lines of, okay, I'm starting to understand business a little bit better, pitfalls, technology, and that kind of thing. So that consultancy was related to delivery of technical solutions, but I still hadn't really gotten my legs on strategy and understanding the go-to-market aspects. And so that's where I had to develop um, my business sense during that engagement to grow that to a point where I was able to sell that business as well to another MSP that was acquiring companies and books for that type of space.
Hmm.
Moving forward, I said, what do I do next? And so at that point, I was like, do I start another company? I didn't have any ideas in the hopper. And then I actually got involved with another corporation who had a really interesting proposition. They had an amazing engineering team and they were struggling with how to productize their product, which I'm finding actually in my consultancy now. That's another key issue is product alignment with the market to figure out how to position it and get the monetization assigned, right? So, and that was in the media broadcast technology industry. So that went extremely well. We were able to scale that to some of the largest media broadcast companies in the world, and that was an award-winning team, like Emmy technical award-winning winning team. So I
Hmm.
moved from there, finished that engagement, and then moved on to another organization that was related to technical delivery for ed tech, so in the education space. And they had similar problems, and they needed further work related to their portfolio. So understanding a lot of things, like it had to do an audit with regards to the team and the delivery and the processes and the technology stacks for um, revenue generating product. So there's a lot of that kind of work. So realignment. And then I I decided that with all of these type of skills, the it would make a lot more sense if I would be able to bring this to the world, like to help other entrepreneurs in their journeys, to be able to avoid these pitfalls that I've had over my 30-year career. And with that, I partnered with some other consultants that have worked in like for some of the majors, the three big ones. And now we bring together that practice that we can come in and to an organization that is struggling with that go to market, struggling with making sure that their product is being launched in a way that's ROI positive and structured from a strategy perspective. And then with that, we often uncover through discovery that, oh, you don't have a product process in place. The technical stack and understanding of how the delivery happens. What's the support structure look like? How does all of this tie back to the monetization of your strategy so that you're able to be profitable, align with your stakeholder interests, as well as like perhaps prepare for different rounds of funding. So creating that story is an important element of what we do now.
Okay. So, so really, as an entrepreneur, you really built your entrepreneurship on two layers. One is actually, you know, innovating and building and delivering a product. And the other way is, being what I would call the outside guy and doing the same thing, but advising others building, uh, you know, how to make some of the steps uh, as successful as possible. Is that fair?
It is one of the key areas that I find companies struggle with, especially early stage post bootstrap, perhaps at seed or just post seed funding at those stages. Oftentimes, the founders are like, I've got an idea, something ready for market. I really need to get to growth. And now I've all of a sudden got money. I need to hire some people. But this is where I would caution instead of going directly and hiring, for example, what is called the individual contributor CTO to say, I need to have someone who's going to give me strategy and build my product completely from the ground up. Those are mutually exclusive skill sets. And so I would caution those folks to consider bring in a specialist from a strategy perspective first, align what your best practices would be, how you would be able to prepare for scale and everything by starting with strategy first and then making sure you have a good product process in place. Then it makes really great sense to have the individual contributors come in to deliver those things so you're getting ROI immediately and not having to dilute, for example, through bringing in like a new partner or a technical partner and things like that. So it gives you that opportunity to really spend more on moving your business forward rather than trying to fill a role that you think you need filled.
So it's kind of interesting, but from what I'm listening to here, you've you sort of uh, been both on the inside and on the outside, building predominantly technology businesses over the last 20 odd years. Is that fair enough to say?
It is.
So what's the best? Building the business as an owner or helping as an advisor?
Personally, one of the things that great business coaches will tell you is a great business owner identifies what it is they're good at, and then they hire for the roles that they're not good at. And when it comes to saying, I have a passion for a thing, and I really want to move this forward, that is the that is like your CEO type role, right? I've done that multiple
Mhm.
times. And at this point, instead of just focusing on that, my interest is I'm really good at a particular thing, right? And that's that strategy and bringing that forward and bringing people together so that we can achieve amazing results in short periods of time. And I really want to, at this point in my career, in my life, I want to be able to pay that forward and help these other folks to bring to fruition their visions. And so I was able to make my own business out of that. That's a scalable business. So at the end of the day, I'm still the entrepreneur, but I'm also able to help other entrepreneurs, which is pretty fulfilling personally.
Okay. So on that front, and you have a technical background anyway, you know, in that role, there's, you know, I'm not that far away from you in terms of skills either. So, but what have you seen the technology has changed in that sort of growth phase companies? From not from a marketing, from a management, from a tech side of it, all of those things. What is AI? How's it changed the game for the startup, early stage, whatever? Uh, companies?
Great question. Aside from internal facing tools, which AI can help businesses with streamlining certain aspects of their day to day, as we've all seen, ChatGPT and things like that. When we're considering it from a product side or a revenue generating side of things, I think it's very important to not say, oh, my app needs to have AI and look at it from that perspective. It's more of understanding it's back to the fundamental of the business. Regardless of the technology you use, it's all about what problem am I solving? Who am I solving it for? And how do I get there? Right? Then you determine what technologies would be best to fit that space.
Mhm.
Oftentimes, keeping up with trends such as using cloud computing to reduce overhead and costs and doing that in a cloud native way is an important consideration because that structures and determines the skill sets that you need within your organization, as well as what you're responsible for and costs, especially in an early business. Second part of that, when it comes to AI, it's what value will the AI bring specifically, or is my idea completely based on AI, and how would I leverage that? So this is the point of consideration of where that fits in the puzzle. It does definitely behoove a company to consider that because VCs are looking for not specifically an AI product or digital product or things like that. They look specifically for, are you leveraging the appropriate modern technologies in your solution that makes sense moving forward? Or is it roadmapped as part of your solution if it's not an inherent AI type tech solution?
But even as part of your solution, as a consultant advisor, isn't AI, working you out of a job on that front?
I would definitely say it's not working me out of a job. I actually saw a presentation recently from the Nobel laureate who is a
Hmm.
grandfather of AI. It was an
Oh yeah,
interesting
yeah, I've
chat.
met
A
him a couple of
chat,
times. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, at U of T did that recently.
yeah.
But at the end of the day, the discussion that followed, um, the understanding is AI is definitely not there to the point where it can completely replace us. What I can definitely tell you that AI is good for is making a sea of common. So basically, or sea of same as they call it now. So by creating or using AI to figure out things like your strategies, will you get marketing strategy, for example, that will work? Sure, but it's going to be, it works and it delivers at a baseline. For anything that's going to be exceptional, that still requires people like you and me who have these years of experience, who understand spaces, who can actually apply that creativity. Because if you've ever used AI to really try and create something creative, that's where it falls flat. It's really great with processing information, but terrible at novel creativity.
Yep. I totally been there, done that. Yes. Okay. So, but what's the greatest challenge you've faced in the business so far? The,
The challenges that I run into, it relates to stakeholder buy-in in the cases of really brilliant technical people who don't necessarily have a real big background in business. So I find that uh, founders that are a little bit more mature, who've the been through the ropes for and done things before, but still need some help to maybe scale or do something different that's outside of their wheelhouse. They're a
Mhm.
fantastic group of people to work with. The younger founders who are business minded, who are willing to take that information and say, yes, okay, I can see the value in this and how you're helping guide me away from the way I'm thinking to build something, also a great group. The ones that are difficult, the ones that are challenging are people who really know their technology, but then when you tell them the definition of an MVP versus what they're actually delivering and how did they come to that versus just what was in their head, because they predominantly all want to build. I know, I understand, I did it. So I'm not faulting anyone. It's just I've learned through my journey that that's not the best approach. And if you do it from a really structured approach and validate each build as you go through the market, it actually makes a big impact on how much you actually have to outlay from your seed funding, for example, to be able to produce something. So that's the one of the key challenges that I run into.
Hmm. In terms of challenges, is there any kind of process that you've developed that have allowed you to overcome the challenge, to get around the wall kind of thing?
Yes, the um, human are humans, so sometimes they will have to figure it out for themselves. But by being benevolent and being kind and saying, this is what we suggest to do, this is give them that guidance early on. So part of our playbook is to say we have multi-tiered engagement. So I call it an engagement pathway, and because that where it's a road that we walk together. And it starts off with, we'll talk, give you some advice, and go from there. If it's something you want to heed, wonderful. If not, I understand. But if you do heed it and you're saying, yeah, I understand what you're saying, how do I get there? That's when we get to the next level of we'll give you the strategy. Then after that, if you say, this amazing strategy, I need some help with execution, then that's the next stage of engagement walking down the path. However, that looks for a founder is fine for me. And the way that this overcomes the problem is if a founder decides after the initial conversation that, oh, I'm just going to do it my way, even though you've suggested some things that make sense, they will run into the problems that I had outlined for them because it's inevitable. Writing's on the wall you know, right? And so they'll run into those problems, and then there's always a callback from that perspective. Some will call back, some will run out of runway. It all depends on how they've hit it, but the idea is putting more. I've heard this term from one of the VCs that was speaking was it's about putting the jelly beans in the trust jar, right? And so once they
Hmm.
understand, okay, that person does make some sense, and they did try and warn me, maybe I should listen, then we're happy to help.
What advice would you give an entrepreneur thinking about, you know, stepping in, stepping into the entrepreneurial risk environment from where they are in corporate world today?
Most important advice relates to the first steps you need to do, and that is do your market research, understand your unique value proposition for your product. Then check to make sure that someone is willing to pay X dollars and figure out how much it's going to cost you to deliver. If it still makes sense and you're able to raise interest to be able to fund that to get to a proof of concept, that is a great pathway. But only figure out what your minimum is before really investing heavily into something. And if you need help, don't be afraid to ask. There is no shame in asking for help.
On staying with the kind of mentoring thing, what's the best piece of advice that you've received, no, that you keep there in the back pocket that that's really made a difference in the way you operate?
I've received a lot of good advice, so I have to think about that for a minute.
Think of the
I've
one that
been,
keeps coming. You,
yeah,
you keep going back to.
I think one that actually comes up for me relates to sales. And it was early in my career as I was talking about that founder that was my one of my first mentors.
Hmm.
He had me. He was really supportive in training and making sure that all his employees and all his management staff um, were onboarded to good information, right? And so, like even in sales, for example, everybody had to understand sales. So he made us learn Zig Ziglar. I listened to so much Zig Ziglar tapes. Is crazy back then because there were tapes back then.
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
and and what came from that, and this is one of his key things was if you're doing a great sales process, then you have to trust in that. And sometimes a cigar is a cigar, right? And so that always stood with me to say, not everybody is going to be ready for your information, for the thing that you're want to provide, even if they clearly need it, they may not be ready. So always be okay with that. Let that sit well with you, move on, and then just keep calm and move on, as they say, right?
Yeah. Okay, that's enough deep stuff. Let's have a little bit of fun before we call it an interview. Uh, you know, if you weren't doing what you're doing now, what do you think you would do instead?
Hmm. I'd probably be endeavoring to do what I do now. It's just what I love to do,
And I know that feeling too. What
right?
what book are you reading, podcast to listen to that you would recommend to the audience that you really feel is of great value?
Oh, that's a great question. There's a number of great books that are, if I'd prepared for that, I'd have a whole library list for you of things. The things that I'm actually personally reading right now, although it sounds super boring, is a lot of Harvard Business Review articles
Hmm.
from their, uh,
Hmm.
yeah, from that publication. So
You
that's,
can't go wrong with HBR. It's
yeah.
just it's always a good place. The Economist is pretty good too. Uh, are you a morning or a night person?
I would say definitely I'm more of an afternoon person. So
Well,
I do my
I got you at
best
the
work.
right time then.
Yeah, I do my best work in the afternoon, but I mean, I will. It ranges. Like I can either work from early morning until later evening, or I'll start, regular time in the morning until like very late in the evening. But generally, I guess we all have, as we get older, we kind of start to be a little bit more aware of those
Hmm.
things. And I think my absolute best time is the afternoon. But if I had to classify morning or evening, I'd say definitely I'd lean towards an evening person.
Okay. If you had to pick one word to describe yourself, what would it be, and why would you choose it?
I would choose tenacious, and reason being is because I can tell you definitely in this journey, uh, as an entrepreneur, it's not light for the lighthearted. For those who want to give up quickly, you need to be able to get through the times of feast, or sorry, times of famine to get to the times of feast. And that tenacity and the ability to adjust so that you can go roll with the punches, as you'd say. I think that's one of the key driving factors of why I've been able to succeed in my life. And that's how I describe it. And I would recommend that being an important principle for folks who want to get into business.
Last question. What's keeping you up at night these days?
Hmm. Right now, the main thing that keeps me up is actually excitement. I'm super excited on some of the projects that I'm working on to be able to make a difference in their lives, and their journeys and their businesses. Because when I meet these founders, it's not just a business transaction. There's that personal relationship that comes there. And as I mentioned, the jelly beans in the trust jar, it's all about that. And you start to form these strong bonds and really want to see them succeed. So um, I don't work with huge companies like a McKinsey or a Deloitte would. Or Boston Consulting Group, that kind of thing. I work more with the small to medium enterprise, and so that
Hmm.
gives me that blessing or that opportunity to really forge those relationships. And so when working towards a goal to help somebody succeed, that really excites me. So I don't have any major um, worries that keep me up at night, but it's definitely I'm just so excited for the next day to come that I I can't get to sleep.
Nice. That's great, Dan. It's been really good meeting you, and I love some of the things you said, and thinking about entrepreneurs listening to this. I think there's some real good insights there. So thank you very much for coming on to Canada's Entrepreneur.
You're welcome, and I'm happy to be of service.
Wow. Now that's what I call some deep insights from Dan. I really hope you all enjoyed listening and got some advice that can be very useful as you're building your businesses out there. I'm Phil Bliss. Don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter on our website and subscribe on our YouTube channel as well, or on any of the major podcast channels. Thanks for listening to Canada's Entrepreneur, where you meet the entrepreneurs that drive Canada's economy.